So are you a golfer who feels like they set up well to the golf ball, but all too often we top it, we thin it, we push it, we pull it, we hook it and we slice it. And it feels like all the shots in the bag are there, you don't know which one's coming. Well, you just might be making the biggest mistake I see golfers making. Now, the good news is, I'm going to show you what that mistake is, and most importantly, how to fix it in today's video. So this is a fault that I really struggled with for years, and until I got the feeling we're going to talk about in today's video, I really found it hard to correct it. So I'm going to hit the shot initially, making the move that I've struggled with over the years, and this is something I see with a lot of golfers. And there's my little thinny one, and that would be pretty apt, to be fair. Club head speed around 83 mile an hour, low point actually slightly behind, so the club's travelled up as it's hit the ball, a little bit from the inside, and the club face slightly closed, and 147 carry. Now, as a kid, that was kind of my bad iron shot, and don't get me wrong, you're probably looking at that and going, oh, my heart bleeds for you. But I'm going to play that swing in slow motion. And what you will see in the swing is from a good setup position, I make a decent backswing, but as I start my downswing, my hips move closer to the golf ball, so I'm cramped for room. I then have to lift up a little bit into impact. That's where the bottom of the swing isn't down low enough. That's where I catch that thin. But far too often for golfers, they feel themselves moving up and down, and certainly face on, they'll draw a line at the top of the head, and they get told about trying to keep their height. And it's because they see that happening, they feel they need to stay down. But you're only lifting because you're moving closer to the ball. So obviously when you're lifting, where the bottom of the arc is going to be changing in height. Also where the low point is can change. And certainly down the line, you can see some very dramatic changes with what the club's doing in order to get back to the golf ball. So I'm not saying it's impossible to hit good shots doing that, and you will see certain tour players do it, but maybe not as extreme as you see amateur golfers. So I'm now going to hit a shot more with the feeling I've kind of worked on for the last 3-4 years and see if you can spot the difference. So it's a much more solid strike, a little bit more club head speed. We see the low point move ahead of the golf ball. I actually swing a little bit left, which actually helps me get that low point ahead. Very neutral shape though, and a little bit more carry at 157. So again, I'll play that one in slow motion, and what you'll see is from a very similar address position, I make my backswing, much as I did on the first one, but you see how the hips tend to stay back a little bit more, which creates room for my hands to swing into, and I'm able to maintain my posture more through impact. So you might watch that and go, brilliant, I know, because I videoed my golf swing, that I move closer to the golf ball, and I know I come out of posture. But how are you staying in posture? Because even when I try and stay in, I still get that same movement. So I think a lot of the problem comes from how golfers are told that they need to get towards the golf ball and start their downswing. So what they tend to get told is as you make your swing, you need to push off that trail foot. And the problem is when they push into the ground to get them moving, the first thing they do is as they push off that foot, that trail hip moves closer, obviously moving all the hips nearer the golf ball, and then we're in trouble. So what I want you to feel is that, certainly from face on, as you get to the top of your backswing, you're going to feel that the weight just moves sideways. You're not going to try and push off the foot, but you're going to move sideways, and then coming into impact, you're actually going to push your lead foot into the ground hard away from you. It's almost like you'd be trying to slide the foot, but because there's pressure on there, you push into the ground pushes back. Now, if I do that as a practice swing, move to the side, push. You can see straight away there, as I move to the side and push, see how my hips stay back? That lead hip starting to turn out of the way, and I'm able to stay posture. So it can be a challenge to feel that to begin with. And it's still something I have to work on. It's not something that comes natural to me. but it does feel like I've got so much more room to swing the club into. So initially, I'd get the feel, and I always talk about this, maybe take a little bit of speed out to try and get a focus on what you're doing. So you set up, make the movement. Now the strike wasn't great, but the club head speed was still 84 mile an hour, low point ahead, path and face very, very neutral. Now, it was interesting because that didn't feel like I was putting any speed into that. But the better we can use the ground, the more energy we can get into the club. And obviously the better we're using the ground, the more neutral our delivery will be. So let's have one more, just that little bit slower. And again, felt nice, felt solid, and felt very, very different. Now, I know a lot of golfers will say, well, I do that as my first part of my movement. That's simply because you're just trying to turn out the way. If we can get that little shift towards the target, just almost fall towards the target, see how the club's going to shallow. Then as you push your foot into the ground, the club gets back out in front, and then you can just keep going. So, a couple of nice smooth ones. Then, as ever, I just want to build a little bit of speed back in. Felt lovely. 83.5 mile an hour, low point 3 inches ahead, incredibly neutral delivery, and 165. Now, it's all about progressions when you're working on something, a new thought, a new feeling. So I'm going to do one more, how I did that last one, hopefully. I didn't feel that one like I pushed into my foot quite as much. Again, still love that 84 mile an hour, 3.3 inches behind. Again, very, very neutral delivery, and 157 total. So once I get more comfortable with that, I think I can do that bit pretty well. And the pushing my foot into the ground away from me, I do okay. But then what I want to feel is, rather than try to just gradually slide it out there, I want to feel it's almost like a quick stab with my foot into the ground. So again, do the practice swing. And as I push the foot kind of quicker, it feels like everything happens quicker as a chain reaction. So again, no ball, that felt really, really simple. Let's get into the ball, same feel. It didn't feel quite as aggressive as the practice swing, but again, another jump in club head speed, low point still ahead, and again, not an awful shot. And that's probably the bit that almost I would talk about it as feeling like fast twitch. It's something I find a bit more challenging. I think anyone that knows me would say fast twitch is probably not the way you would describe anything in my life. But I think if I can get, once I'm there, that push into the ground harder, quicker, I think that's my key at the moment. Love that. Felt good. 87 mile an hour club speed, low point 3.6 inches behind, and again, incredibly neutral with my delivery. Now, obviously I've shown kind of the path and the club face at impact there. And you can see when I use the ground better, you can see how incredibly neutral my golf swing is through the bottom. Definitely for me, years ago, because of that early extension, the club used to get way behind me, and I'd really have to get very active with my hands to square it up. And it is one of those things that the better you can learn how to move, particularly using the ground a little bit better, you'll really improve the delivery of your golf club. And then obviously if you deliver the club better, that influences where the golf ball goes and how far it goes. But if you're a golfer who stands up and comes out of posture and early extends, you need to take the focus away from that back foot. Shift towards the target, push hard into the lead foot. And if you can do that, like I said, you're going to deliver the club better, quicker, and hit more quality shots more often.